And we're live. Welcome to MLB Live Before Lock. It is Friday, September 29th. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Matt Belman. We are closing out the work week, and for the work week, this is the last MLB Live Before Lock of the regular season for me. And Belman, do you got one tomorrow? Do you have one Sunday? I don't know if you have anything on the weekend.
No football shows on Sunday, but I do have one tomorrow with EMAC. So last baseball show, probably. Although that said, there'll probably be some shows like during the week when the playoffs first start. I think we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. We are going to have something Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but we don't have the game times yet. So until we get the game times, we can't really do anything schedule-wise, because if we can do a live before lock, we might. If scheduling-wise that doesn't work, if we would have to move around NFL stuff, then we're probably just going to do it as me taking a look at it early. But we're going to have something moving forward. So don't think that's going anywhere. Lots to talk about. We lost the game today. Mets game went away. Glad we got rid of it early. I didn't want to have to deal with it. It wasn't that interesting of a game to me to begin with, so I'm happy that it's just gone. But did change the slate, dropped a game down. Now we only have 12. Pitching is very interesting today. It's kind of all over the place, kind of gross. Don't really need much salary to get pitching, so kind of means you could roster anybody. And we still have cores, but Dodgers out, Minnesota Twins in. We'll break down all of that over the next hour. Owner's Box, sponsor. Say hi to them if you want to. Click the link in the description. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but I think we just dive into this pitching slate that is fascinating from top to bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pitchers, at least 10% owned. I count 6 of them from 10 to 20, 2 more from 20 to 30, with Nick Pivetta landing at 30% and the highest owned pitcher for today's slate. Matt, who's the best pitching option today?
Probably Pivetta. It's close. Like, you could say that it's not Pivetta just because he's the only one getting ownership, but watered down Baltimore lineup. He's too cheap. He's number 1 in our top pitcher tool. Now it's all jumbled, like you mentioned. He's also like number 3 in top value. He's just too cheap for a strikeout upside. He's not like an ace, a guy that cannot, like, if he gets hit around, you're not shocked by it. But considering the price tag and the other options we have today, you can nitpick you want all you want at Pivetta, but then find me a guy where you feel like you're really like feeling comfortable with it. Just not there. So I think Pivetta looks really good. I want to say Kikuchi, just more worried about his pitch count. So I also like Kikuchi a lot, considering the other options. But if you ask me who the top dog is, I think it's Pivetta.
I am very nervous about Nick Pivetta. Are you ready to hear why?
You either have a ton or 0.
I have 8% right now. I don't know how long he's pitching this game. And if his ownership makes me think that he's pitching longer in this game than he may be. I find this interesting. These 2 props on FanDuel Sportsbook do not coincide in my brain. He has an outs prop of 15.5, slightly juiced to the under, which is leading me to believe that we're talking about a neutral line of 5 innings, 15 outs. That's not ideal for Nick Pivetta. His strikeout prop is 6.5. If you like one, you like the opposite side of the other. If you like if you're a believer in that outs prop, then I think you got to be pretty nervous about him getting basically half of his outs as strikeouts. And if you look at that and think, well, 15 outs seems oddly low, then you should ignore the strikeout prop and just take the outs prop. If we believe that outs prop, if he's in line for 5 innings, I'm nervous he's over-owned.
He's definitely over-owned, but I guess 2 questions to combat what you said. 1, what makes you question how long he's pitching? Because Baltimore is not playing for anything, but they haven't been playing anything for his past couple starts, and he's thrown 90+ in his past 3. So I'm not like saying that he's going to do that today because of that. I'm just wondering why you're a little concerned.
For the year, averaging 16 outs per start, it just feels a little lower. Like I would not expect. I would expect him to have a longer outlook in outs. I would have assumed that number was 16.5. I feel like he's an out shy there. And I don't know why it's a little bit. Is it just lower because it's the last start of the regular season? Like every single starter, unless they're cruising, is just more likely to get taken out if you run into a little bit of damage because you're not saving them for anything else. Like, do you just have a naturally shorter leash if you're average today as Nick Pivetta? I don't know what the answer to that is.
I think yes, but also like I'm more thinking about that with teams that like care about this game. I mean, I don't really care about it. If I were thinking about that, it'd be more the Brian Woos of the world, the Kyle Hendricks, teams that like need these games. And if they get into even slight signs of trouble early, might pull them. Could be in the same case. I just don't really understand why Boston would do that personally.
Yeah, I don't know. He definitely looks good. I get why the ownership is coming in there. Is he that much of a better option than John Means on the opposite side of this game?
No, who the Bat actually has as their top projected pitcher. Now, a lot of that is close, and you could argue that if you wanted to, but still, at his price tag, he looks good. I mean, and he's also getting the ownership though, so not sure like that's where I'd want to go if I were thinking about like a contrarian pivot. Our tools don't really like Means here. If I were going to Means personally, I think I'd go to Waldichuk.
You're burying my lead, but I will get to the fact that I have a teens amount of Ken Waldichuk at this point. We're going to look at him in a little bit. No disagreement there. I'm getting to less Means. It's not necessarily for Waldichuk. It is for the Boston Red Sox bats, which we will definitely get to in a little bit. Yeah, I look at that Pivetta ownership and I look at those props and I just have that twinge of, oh shit, he's going to end up throwing 4 innings and we're like, no one's going to know that was the plan before we started.
Yeah, the line is a little bit off, but I guess like based on you said, it kind of goes in line with his season long numbers. I mean,
sure,
more or less.
So Pivetta is likely the first name everyone is looking at, because I think a lot of guys just look kind of similar, and when you have those tendencies, you kind of just naturally funnel to the middle. I think a lot of guys look really similar relative to salary. We've got Carlos Rodon at 24% owned. He's the second most owned guy behind Pivetta. Has kind of found himself over the past 2 starts. Certainly 2 starts ago, struck out 10, no walks. That became very much the Carlos Rodon of old. How's he stand out to you at 7,100 here? Because he still has the price tag that makes it seem like he's awful.
He does still have that price tag that makes it seem like he's awful. He can definitely be awful on any given start, though. So it's baked in there. I mean, he's certainly in play. He doesn't like stand out to me as a guy I'm like rushing to get to, except for that price tag. So, if you want to go with him as your SP2 or SP1, this slate is like just full of guys that, are talented, but they're not in great spots, or aren't very talented and in great spots. And that goes with the bats too. So it's just an interesting slate where a lot is in play from every side, basically.
Yeah. Like I look at Rodon, I'm basically neutral. I don't have a giant stand on anybody other than the guy that I'm going to bring up next, because I think we can naturally get to that point. But I don't have any more than 30% of one pitcher. Like it's a flat day to me. I don't see anybody that just immediately stands out as a guy that I want to go crazy for. I think there's just a lot of different pieces that fit together, a lot of very similarly projected guys relative to their salary. What are your thoughts on Nathan Eovaldi? 12% owned at the top, 9,300 for today, taking on the Seattle Mariners in Seattle.
This is another one. Like the bat really likes him. Our tools do not. He's back to throwing like close to a full, not like a full allotment of pitches, but close to his normal workload.
Yeah.
He's talented, and like his price, he was way too expensive for the past however many starts he's made. The price is coming down while his pitch count is rising, which is a good combination to see. Seattle strikes out a lot. Like he's definitely on the short list for me. He's one of the more expensive pitchers, but he's under 10K. So he's the second most expensive pitcher, but he's under 10K. Salary is just really not an issue on this slate.
No, not at all. I'm getting to Eovaldi. I have he is my most exposed pitcher at 33%. We were projecting 12 on our last run. I see a park that limits runs in a pretty sizable way. It's not exactly a problematic power park. There are some strikeouts to be had here outside of other than JP Crawford at the top of the lineup, 15% K rate to righties via steamer. I think it's a decent enough start in a situation where he's not really pulling all that much ownership. Not to mention 9,300 is just really not that big of a deal on this 12 gamer. There's enough value everywhere to easily get there. Like we don't have, there's no 12K Garrett Cole or 12.5 Spencer Strider or anything today. We don't have a 10K arm.
Even the bats, like the Braves, are a little bit cheaper than they've been. Not just because they have cheaper guys in the lineup, but like Riley and Albies are a little bit cheaper than they've been, which helps.
For sure. What other pitchers do you have your eye on? Lance Lynn's in double digits. Dylan Cease is in double digits. Kikuchi, who we mentioned earlier. You mentioned Ken Waldichuk. Maybe we go there right now. Chase Silseth is at 18% ownership. Who else stands out?
Man, the interesting thing about this slate, be honest about it, none of these guys stand out. They all look like the same to me. And that's just what it is. You can make, nitpick arguments for your guy if you want, but at the end of the day, all these guys have their flaws. They all have their potential upside. I think if you're asking me like who stands out, it's one guy you didn't mention. It's Dylan Cease, 8,900. Our tools like him a lot. We know he's a guy in the past that has been really good. He either won the Cy Young last year or he was second. He was really, really good last year. So still a good pitcher. Hasn't been great this year. Tough matchup against San Diego, but you're dealing with that like across the slate. So he's a guy at that ownership that's interesting to me. Again, I don't think that he's that much different though from like a Lance Lynn and the other guys you mentioned at their price points.
Yeah, I'm right on the field for Cease. Park scares me a little bit. Matchup obviously scares me a bit. There's just so much terrifying bats in the Padres lineup, but I will still get to Cease because I do think there's some ceiling there, and I'm always fine to bet on talent. Not a guy I'm just running away from. There's not really anybody that I'm aggressively running away from here. Is it time to talk Ken Waldichuk?
Yeah, I think he looks like one of the better options on the slate given his price, ownership, everything matchup.
Yeah, at 7% owned, a guy that can go deep enough into the game, 7,200, taking on an Angels team that's not anything special. There's no Shohei Ohtani here. There's no Mike Trout here. So I have 17% Ken Waldichuk. He's 7% owned. I'm very happy with taking a run on Waldichuk. Why not?
I know that the Angels have a slightly higher run total, which I don't really agree with, but even that considered, I just don't really get why Means is getting 4 times the ownership. That's him, or 3.5 times, whatever it is.
I agree.
Yeah. So
I think it's a very, very small I have Means projected by 0.7 of a point more. $200. They're pretty close to neutral, but 7% to 21, but like 3x the ownership. That's crazy. They should be, if they were both like 12 or 13, I think that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, agreed.
I guess we should probably have this conversation because the most expensive pitcher on today's slate is good. It's Zach Gallen, but he is taking on the Astros. 1.7% owned right now for Gallen. I think that ends up being 4 or 5. We had Cole kind of low yesterday. He ended up coming in around 10. Maybe that wasn't yesterday, 2 days ago, whatever it was. Whenever he threw the gem. I think Gallen comes in a couple spots higher than that, but any interest in Gallen here? Can you go to this matchup against the Astros? It just seems like utter death.
I'm a huge Gallen fan, and I think the case for him on this slate is that even the cheaper options we mentioned, are not they're either not very good or not in good spots. So
yeah,
I think that's the case for Gallen, is that he is really good. Obviously, an awful spot, one of the worst on the slate, but it's not crazy to think that a bunch of these guys just stink. The salary doesn't really matter, and Gallen is good, not amazing, but just good, and he's one of the best pitchers on the slate, because even though he's expensive, he's still like you mentioned, there's no 12K Garrett Cole. He's only 9,700. That said, I don't really feel like I need to go there just because the matchup is so tough. Like, it's just picking on Houston is just like, it'll work out sometimes, but not very often.
No. Who's the better option? Zach Gallen today in this awful spot against the Houston Astros, or Joe Ryan pitching in Coors against the Colorado Rockies?
Give me Gallen there for sure,
Okay.
personally, just because Ryan, we've seen recently with the past 2 Minnesota starts, they're locked into the playoffs. They have not been extending their guys. That is a legit concern for me here.
Yeah.
If that weren't a concern, I'd probably take Joe Ryan just because Houston does not strike out. You could get a huge outlier Gallen start. He's good enough. But, it's a tough bet.
It is. It is. No disagreement there. I would probably go to Ryan in that case as well. I am a little nervous about his depth for this game. Anybody else that we need to touch on here? Anybody whose name we didn't say that we should? I guess we didn't talk about Chase Stillseth when we were talking earlier about Ken Waldichuk. Stillseth is pulling 19% ownership. He is the guy getting ownership in this game. $6,900, $300 cheaper than Ken Waldichuk. I don't have anything to say. I think he should be getting that ownership. A matchup against the A's, great strikeout matchup. He's got some decent strikeout stuff. I don't know how deep he's going to go into the game. Does have some issues with righty power, but I get the upside play.
I definitely get it. I like other guys more, like Waldichuk on the other side. Oakland stinks, but I think right now the Angels might be worse, just given what their lineups look like today on September 29th. I mean, it's arguable at least. Big ballpark upgrade for Oakland. And the ownership is already there with Stillseth. So I get it. I don't think he's a bad play because, like I said, you can make arguments for and against all these guys. I just personally like, Pivetta better, Kikuchi, Waldichuk in that price range. He's similar to Means to me. I do think I like him a little bit more than Means, just given where those guys are landing on the ownership scale.
I have a little bit more of Stillseth. I think that's probably just a price thing. I have Stillseth. Well, no, I have Stillseth projected for 0.5 of a point more.
He's cheaper and he's getting a little less ownership.
They're both good. They're both good. They're both. There's a lot of above average options today. That's probably the best way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything else for any other pitchers. I guess we didn't talk about Brian Wu. That we can go one final dude here, taking on the Rangers. Tough lineup like it usually is. Wu 7,800, 17% owned. Maybe a tad too high, but 15% Brian Wu I think makes some sense. The park really just helps you out here. Does a lot of heavy lifting.
Park helps you out. I'm concerned, you can make the argument, if he gets into some trouble, they're not going to extend him because they haven't all year and they need this win. That said, you could make arguments each way there. If he wasn't pitching well, you weren't going to do anything anyway, so who cares? But also, it's nice to be able to get, have an extended leash just so if you start off not great, you can at least work out of it. That luxury probably won't be afforded to Wu here, but he's too cheap. His ownership looks right in line with how it should. Probably a little bit overowned, but not really nitpicking that. He's fine. He doesn't look different than any of these other guys at their respective prices. If you were the same price as Stillseth, I would like him more. If you were the same price as Eovaldi, I would like him less. But he's right in the middle, so I like them about the same.
Yeah, I like it. 350 people here, folks. It's nice to see you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us on this lovely Friday. Great weather here. It was a little overcast earlier, but a really nice day. Schedule for the rest of the day is this. We got nothing else, but locked and loaded for a big-time weekend of MLB, college football. You guys know what we're going to be up to on Sunday. Hours and hours and hours of NFL coverage started by me Sunday morning, so don't miss that. Excited for this week 4 slate. I've been enjoying the NFL so far. It hasn't I feel like I've got my finger on the pulse of it, so I guess this might be the week where I just get shivved and find out that I do not have my finger on the pulse of absolutely anything. Shout out to Owner's Box too. I'm hoping that this week is the week that I can get that money in my pocket because I've been dangerously close. I'm ready to cash in. So, yeah, Malachi, no Lions. I don't even want to talk about that game last night. That David Montgomery nonsense was infuriating.
So bad.
Didn't have him. Not like that. That's for sure. When he had the 2 TDs, I was like, okay, if I can get a Romeo Dobbs touchdown, Reynolds touchdown,
right?
I can be okay here. And then Montgomery stuffed that third one in, and I was like, cool. I'm not going to win shit today.
The Packers look like ass.
It was bad. It was real bad. You must not have watched Live Before Lock and faded Montgomery. Neil was all over that play. I wish that I would have had a little bit more of David Montgomery yesterday. Unfortunately, that did not work. I had like 1 or maybe 2 lineups with him in the captain, which clearly was an important thing to do. And I was at a pretty sizable chunk underneath the field at the flex.
I have a feeling I was going to say, I have a feeling you're probably farther along in your process than just watching shows and playing who they say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it wouldn't have made a single difference. I was also under on the St. Brown touchdown, or I was under on St. Brown when the ball was in the air. I was watching. I don't know if you guys watch this or not. So if you're watching those games, the Amazon feed, there's like the next gen stats feed, whatever the hell it's called, where it like puts all the labels of the players on the screen and draws the routes and tell you how much time they have, and it'll let you know when like wide receivers.
That's awesome. I didn't even know that.
So there's an alternate when you open it up. There's just like an alternate feed there that just has all of this additional data and shit that is really fun. So I was paying attention and I looked down at my computer. When I looked back up, the name things were gone. The ball was like pseudo underthrown or whatever. And I was like, oh, catch it. Because I thought it was Reynolds. And I was like, oh, don't catch it. Because when I realized it was St. Brown and he rolled in, I was like, shit, I didn't need that one.
Yeah, that sucks. Definitely been there.
No. Josh, if you watched that version, I genuinely dislike you now. Why?
That version sounds amazing.
What would be your reasoning for disliking me for watching that version? I'm very curious on this. People that watch that version play video games on weird angles too. I don't do that. Why wouldn't you want?
I'm not even sure what that means. I don't even know what that quite means.
There's a sea of people that like play FIFA vertically instead of from left or right.
Oh, okay. Now I get that. Okay. I was honestly thinking like the angle of like how you're sitting to the screen.
Maybe.
But you're talking.
I think like he meant camera settings. Yeah,
for sure. That's messed up.
Not the way to watch football. Ugh. It's the perfect way. Why wouldn't you want that information? Look, say what you want, but having the labels of which wide receiver is which on the screen across the board is a no doubt about it. Absolutely should exist on every broadcast. It's always helpful.
Like,
if they're in a bunch set, like I want to know which one's which very quickly. I know it's great. I don't mean for all women, but certainly for my wife. Greatly prefers having all of that shit on the screen to know where her fantasy players are.
I didn't even know that feed existed, so I'm very excited for the next Amazon game or next Prime game to put that on.
Who do you get? Who is it going to be next Thursday? Will it be worth watching? That's the big question. Next week,
it's
Bears Commanders. So
if you don't have money on the game or playing DFS, you're not watching that one.
That is going to be a real shit showdown slate.
Yes.
I mean, that's just there's gonna be a lot of like I had both defenses, a kicker, 2 running backs, and the backup tight end type builds. I spent $41,000.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I could easily see that.
Yeah, those advanced stats might be kind of negative. All right, you want to talk stacks?
Yeah, let's talk them.
All right, let's talk about some stacks for today. I think we know where we need to start this one out. The Minnesota Twins are the number 1 team in top stack. I have them number one as well. They're number one in ownership at 18%. They are facing Ty Block and the Rockies in Coors. Anything to add on Minnesota today?
No, they don't look as good as like the Dodgers or, excuse me, I don't know whoever else was before them, like not Houston, but another really good team. But that makes sense because the Twins aren't as good as the Braves or Dodgers, who are just right there. They look really good here. They're also like really cheap. So, I mean, in cash games, I think you want to certainly stack Twins. There are other good offenses today, but the Twins look like the top dog pretty easily. I mean, typical situation in Coors, competent offense, not the worst offense in the world. They have power. They pinch hit a lot. Not sure how they're going to handle it, now that they've clinched. Maybe they keep running it how they have been. Who knows? But Twins look really good here.
I don't know how you get away from it. They're free. And that's the real problem here. They have the best run environment of anybody today. So having the top stack odds is one thing. They have not been priced as if they're playing in Colorado. I have them number one in top value. We have them second. We're quibbling here. It doesn't make much of a difference. They're the clear, easiest team to be able to roster. 4 of their first 5 hitters have MPEs, first and third, second and third, third and short, third and outfielder. You get Ryan Jeffers with catcher eligibility in the 3-hole. I mean, they're just like the functionally most easy team to roster. I actually don't. Yeah, that is. We have the Minnesota. Do we have the Minnesota lineup yet? We don't have the Minnesota lineup yet. So that will be important. This could they could conceivably look worse if they do something weird. I think this is going to be fine. Like I don't think it's a good lineup. It's just like the best spot you could possibly dream of.
Yeah, that's all it is. I mean, typical insert good to not great team in Coors.
Yep. Who's the second best team?
I mean, I think it's got to be Atlanta.
Okay.
I could see why someone would say the Yankees facing in Jordan Lyles.
That's where I was leading you to.
The ownership is for me though, they're definitely not because they're jumbled in with all these other teams, but their ownership is that of Minnesota's. No thanks for me. I get it. Jordan Lyles is not good. The weather's conducive for hitting in Kansas City. That said, it's still Kansas City. The Yankees look good here, but they don't look really much different to me than Cincinnati, Arizona, San Diego. The list goes on. So no Yankees for me. If I'm going to play a chalky offense, it's definitely the Twins. I think pairing the Twins and Yankees together, probably a fish move, in single entry.
I'm not a big fan of the Yanks here. I have about half the field as of right now. I want to get to the Braves. I mean, we spent 25 minutes on pitching and talked about how there's pitchers everywhere up and down the salary tier. Value isn't all that problematic. I'll happily pay up for Atlanta. Lineup is fine. Do I want to roster Nicky Lopez and whatever a Forrest Wall is? No, not really. But the top of the order still looks fantastic. I will happily pay up for Ronald Acuna, Albies, Riley, Olsen. I have the salary to do so. I'm not I don't have any giant stands on any pitchers below Chase Silseth. I don't have to beg for it. It's not the only reason I'm not getting to it's not Ty Block that's unlocking everything for me. Give me Atlanta. I don't think they're owned enough.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you can make the case they're the top stack in tournaments on the board just because of everything you just said. Really good matchup. Trevor Williams stinks. It's Atlanta. The bottom of their lineup, it's the exact trade-off you mentioned. It's not as good, but it's a lot cheaper. I'm there's nothing transitive I can do with this, but I'm slightly worried they start pulling what the Dodgers did yesterday, where if the lead gets to be not huge, but just 5 or 6 runs in the middle of the game, they start pulling guys that haven't done that yet. It's more likely, when they give guys a day off, they just give them a day off and, until the playoffs start. So that's how I'm going to handle it. Would it be a shock if one of their top 4 guys is pulled halfway through? No, but you're just dealing with that all over in September.
So we've talked about the Twins. We talked about the Braves. We talked about the Yankees. 2 of those teams I am getting to pretty heavily. The Yankees are not that team. Who's not getting any ownership that you might have your eye on? Who are some of the sneakier teams that you see for today?
Couple teams I'm looking at, but I really think you could say that about every team that's not Minnesota, Atlanta, and the Yankees. No other team is getting like a ton of ownership. For me, though, Cincinnati stands out. Our tools like them. Woodford is not good. It's obviously a little bit of a ballpark downgrade for them, a big ballpark downgrade, but they get 9 at-bats here against a weak St. Louis bullpen and Woodford, so I like them. Another team I like completely off the board, our tools don't necessarily like them, but they don't hate them either, is Washington.
Okay.
On the other side of Atlanta here, Winans is nothing special to me at all. He just faced Atlanta earlier in the season. He's only made like 4 starts. He pitched really well against the Mets, then faced them for a second time, struggled big time. So similar situation here. Washington's not good, and I'm not playing Washington because of that. The ownership's not there. I like their positionality. Abrams at short, Diaz at catcher, etc. A lot of these teams look the same to me. I like going on the other side of Atlanta here. Just don't really have that much respect for Winans.
I don't have either of the teams that you mentioned. I don't have the Reds. I don't have the Nats. I think a lot of it just has to do with pitching ownership. I've gone to the teams that are getting some on the opposite side. So the first team that I'm looking at today is the Red Sox. I'm honestly a little surprised to see their run total given the park factors for Baltimore. And since John Means has been back, he's thrown 250 pitches. So obviously, this is not a big sample by any means. He hasn't no strikeouts, 10% K rate to lefties, 9 to righties. So whatever he's done in those 250 pitches hasn't resulted in swinging strikes. I might add 1.2% swinging strike rate to lefties, 9.5 to righties. Neither one of those are good either. So even if we want to just say not enough plate appearances to get a lot of strikeouts, he's not getting swinging strikes. 229 x-ISO to lefties, 196 to righties. I think there's some power to be had here in this park, and the Red Sox still have a bunch of power in this lineup. I'm surprised they're as low owned as they are, 1% clean across the board. I think it's very easy to get to Boston, and you have John Means in a quarter of the lineups based on our ownership projections. To me, it's the most natural, easy spot to get to for large field GPPs.
Yeah, no, I'm with that. I mean, I will say, like, the pitching on this slate, it's all jumbled together outside of, like, the top few teams.
Yeah.
That said, it's shocking to me that Boston's getting literally the second, like, only the White Sox are projected to be lower owned than them. Not sure it plays out exactly like that, but either way, they're going to be very low owned, facing a pitcher in Means who, hasn't even pitched much this year, who's getting ownership. I like the call a lot.
I've got another one of those things for today, but there's no ownership really coming into the pitcher. I'm getting to the Rockies.
Yeah.
I had a ton on MLB Live before lock last night. I did not play MLB thanks to that NFL game, but I probably would have had some money based on they were the most exposed team that I had heading into lock. So that was kind of a kick in the dinger. They put up a bunch of runs. But I'm back there today. I have, where'd it go? 22 Rocky stacks. So I'm about 2x the field on ownership. It's just a play on a low-ish owned Coors team, I guess. Any Rockies thoughts?
They actually look slightly better than they do on paper to me just because of the concerns we have about Ryan. So,
yeah,
that's not baked into the tools like anywhere because it's hard to know exactly how long they're going to pitch him. So, yeah, the Rockies, exactly like the other side is. The Rockies are the same as they are a lot of this year, where they're not a very good offense. They're facing a good pitcher, but they're in Coors. And today you have a pitcher who might not pitch very deep into the game.
Marvin wants to know, are either of you guys taking shots on the A's? Normally something that I do, especially when there's ownership on the opposite side. I'm surprised I don't have them. I think because of the way that they're set up, where they are not the best top stack odds, they're a pretty good value option. I don't need them the way that I normally need them. So it doesn't appear I'm getting to the A's. What do you think about them here against that Silseth ownership?
I'm also not getting there, but I like the call here because big ballpark upgrade. A lot of these teams are jumbled together. They don't have a ton of power, but part of that is because they play in Oakland. So they're not in Oakland tonight. Silseth is getting ownership, which, gives you a little bit of that double leverage. I'm not going to sit here and say that, I think Oakland's going to be the top stack on the board. But I definitely think this is a slate where you can mix Oakland in.
Mm-hmm.
I just said I liked Washington. I really don't see any difference between them two, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a good comp for me. Both leaning more on the value side. I think I kind of like the A's a little bit more than Nats just because of the ownership to Silseth. I don't have much else to separate those guys.
Yeah, I
Park
don't
works for lefty power.
I don't disagree with that at all.
And then, okay, so I mentioned the Red Sox. I mentioned the Rockies. Twins and Braves are already chalky. We talked about the chalky Yankees already. Any other stacks? Oh, here we go. Our boy Jorge hit us with the super chat. Thoughts on Mariners versus Eovaldi that has been bad recently? So I don't want that to happen because I've got a lot of Eovaldi. I don't have the Mariners. Literally, I don't have a single share of a Mariners hitter. So Jorge, I don't think that's the answer you were looking for.
Really hard for me to get there today just because of I'm not afraid to pick on Eovaldi, but on a big slate, I'm not going out of my way to, especially with all these, there's a bunch of junk on this slate, guys I want to pick on. And then, second of all, maybe even more importantly, they're real expensive. They're more expensive than Atlanta. So you've got to pay up for them. And that's a big problem for a team that I don't really think is in a great spot.
Yeah, the problem for Seattle is poor top stack odds and top value odds. 21st in top stack, 17th in top value. It's just that becomes very difficult. If Eovaldi were getting the ownership to the public, if the public had my Eovaldi ownership, I'd be more interested in the Mariners. But because he's not really pulling it, I'm less interested in Seattle.
Teams that are around, that range in terms of value, I would just much rather get to the Cubs, the Diamondbacks, the Dodgers for sure, the Red Sox, as we talked about, the Rangers on the other side of that game. Just really hard to make a case for Seattle. Given our tools, I'm not sure how you play Seattle even over Houston.
I would rather have Houston.
Probably talk about.
I would rather have Houston, although obviously facing Gallen is terrifying. Arcathelza says more expensive than Atlanta. Relative to fantasy points, yes, by a lot. Obviously raw dollars is the Braves at the top. It's just by default always going to be them for the most part. But in terms of value, Seattle is more expensive if you're trying to buy fantasy points.
Yeah,
which is
no doubt about that. No doubt about it.
So Gang Green sent us a member's message. What do you guys think about Arizona? And we were thinking then also about touching on the Houston Astros bats, who are 7th or 8th in top stack. Diamondbacks are kind of pricey here against Jose Urquidy. Urquidy probably not going extra special deep in this game. He's also not that great. What do you think about Arizona? I just hate taking teams in this park.
And they're really expensive also. So hard to prioritize them. I don't hate them, but hard to prioritize them.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Houston here then against Zach Allen?
I mean, it's kind of one of these situations, really good pitcher, but Houston's really good. So our tools like them in large field tournaments, they'd be a team I'd be wanting to get overweight on. In smaller field, I think there's better places to go. They won't be owned. Don't hate them in those fields, but I think in larger fields, they look good, just like Gallen looks good on the other side.
Fantasy Guru wants to know best pitcher 8 to 9K on FanDuel. Last I looked at our top pitchers tool, that answer would have been Nick Pivetta at 8,800, assuming we're not going north of 9K. Nick Pivetta is the highest ranked guy in our top pitchers tool for FanDuel.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that sounds about right.
Better than Nick Pivetta, however. Bada bing. That would be Owner's Box. They're up on the screen right now. This is what you would see if you go to ownersbox.com. I am highlighting right now the contest that you need to play on Sunday. We'll get to that in a second. But first, click the link in the description to sign up for Owner's Box. That's what you got to do first. I'll talk about what they give you. You're going to get up to $500 as a first match deposit bonus. So if you put in $50, they'll match it with $50 in owner's bucks. But if you can go up to 500, you should, because you'll match it with 500. It's the perfect way to start off a bankroll. And that will allow you as many entries as you could possibly get for the $175,000 kickoff, $35K to first. This is their flagship contest for the main slate on Sunday for the NFL. I expect this to be, like it was for the first 3 weeks of the season, the best contest that you could enter anywhere in the industry, no matter the site. It was $50K up top to start. We had some overlay. It's dropped down to $35K. Still fantastic. 10,000 entries last week. People need to get into this contest. We're going to get at least reduced rake. If you can reduce the amount that you're spending for rake or potentially have none of it at all, it's going to make you more profitable long term. It'll make you more profitable than anything that you can do in DFS by a mile. But it's not just about getting into that great contest, getting that deposit bonus. You also get the NFL Sims Max package for a week. This is our brand new NFL tool. We are simulating lineups against each other, and we are providing a level of detail that you have not had in this industry previous to this. Generate 10,000 lineups in a minute, just immediately. It's right there for you. And those are going to be unique. You don't have to worry about this, about like giant overlap, everybody doing the same thing. There are so many permutations of lineups in the NFL. Everybody's getting a very unique set. I promise you guys this. Those lineups simulate against each other over and over and over again. You get expected ROI numbers for individual players. See who stands out relative to the field. The stacks themselves, the whole lineup in general. You haven't had this level of detail before. You get to check it out for a week. It'll cover you for owner's box. It'll cover you for DraftKings and FanDuel, showdown slates, main slates. Come check it out, everybody. Sign up at owner's box. Link in the description. God, I'm going to win that contest before the season is over.
This is so bad. This has like never happened to me. So I don't even know how the hell this happened. Somehow when I was reserving contests, I max entered the relay throw, which I normally don't do. So I was trying to like withdraw my entries, but it filled while I was trying to withdraw, which sucks.
You need, instead of trying to withdraw, you need to send the old email out to the rep and be like,
it was so
emergency,
close
pull me out. Okay.
It was like there was like 20 entries left. I tried like left to fill. I just tried to get out as many as I could.
Well, worst of luck to you. I hope you finish second to me. Stay out of my stuff.
If I finish, I will have a train with, because I'm just trying to even out. I was playing 6 lineups. I'm just trying to like even it out now throughout the 150. It's like all I have time to do.
The old accidental max of the large field contest. You gotta love it.
I mean, I'm sure you don't hear about that often.
I usually do it the opposite way. I put one in and don't realize it and wish that I had the other 149, but I don't. So
it is what it is.
That's normally the way that this goes for me. So in terms of lineups right now, we're still waiting on that Twins lineup. We're still waiting on Rangers and Giants, I believe. We got about 10, 15 minutes before we're going to get out of here.
I was going to say, I wish the Giants game was in a different park because I would like them against Lance Lynn here.
Dodgers lineup is that? Did I say Dodgers?
No, you didn't.
Rangers, Giants, Twins. Whatever it is, those are the 3 that I meant. Anybody have any questions? Drop them in. Would love to see what everybody else is up to for tonight. We got plenty of time to work our way through whatever anybody wants to do right now. I'm hopping over to Discord just to see if anybody's doing it. No questions there. Sean V wants to know Lance Lynn or Dylan Cease.
It's a tough one. I think they're so equal here. I lean Cease, but there's no method to that madness. How about you?
I have more Lynn, actually.
Okay. Much better ballpark for Lynn.
Yeah. Yeah, as of right now, I have 20% of Lance Lynn, 5% of Dylan Cease. So give me Lynn.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to go back and change that to Lynn just because better matchup and better ballpark. I think they both have downside. They both have upside here. So they're very similar. The tools think they're about exactly the same. They like Lynn slightly more though, so I think they're about even. But give me Lynn if forced to choose.
Joseph Ramirez wants to know, how many goals are Tottenham going to score tomorrow? The answer better be 0. We're gonna smack them shits around. 12:30 tomorrow. You know where to be, everybody. Tuned into your TV, watching Liverpool run roughshod over Tottenham. Yeah, that's happening. I'm pumped. It's going to be a big one tomorrow. We're doing giveaways at the bar. It's going to be a good time.
Have you always been a soccer fan?
Yeah, I played
okay
when I was little and stuff, so I liked it then. Always was wake up at 2:00 in the morning to watch the World Cup type guy. Yeah, pretty much forever. Now that it's super easy to watch all the time, I can't stop.
That's probably
just
amazing for
it's
you.
the best sports product on television because of the lack of commercials.
I could easily see that for a soccer fan. I think that, I mean, I have no arguments to that because I don't really watch soccer.
It's to watch an NFL game and it's just all right, here's 2 minutes worth of ads. Here's 5 minutes worth of game time, 2 minutes worth of ads, 5 minutes. It's 45 minutes, bing, bang, boom, whatever stoppage time is, 2-3 more minutes. Then you get your halftime bullshit right back into it. 45 more minutes, done and dusted. You're not watching a single commercial at any point in time there. I just you're in and out in 2 hours and you are. You can't beat that.
I would counter with, I personally think the action on the field is boring, but I know you wouldn't think that. So
yeah, you're crazy. At the top level, it's
for me though, it's
guys just don't stop moving, man. There's so much action. It's weird.
One of those things where if I knew what was going on, if I was a soccer player, I would like it more. I don't disrespect it. I appreciate the athleticism that these guys have.
Sure.
I just don't know the intricacies of it. So it's hard for me to appreciate as much as you would watching it.
If you're watching teams that it'd be like watching the equivalent of the Dolphins right now. If you watch a team that presses really high up the pitch, constantly moving, constantly making runs, those are the teams. You want to watch Man City, you want to watch Liverpool, Real Madrid, you want to watch these teams that are just constantly on the front foot that don't let up. In those situations, it's just there's no argument about action. When you get a higher level team facing a mid-table or lower table team, and that other team is just packing it in, it's just a lot of passes around that outside. Those are the games where people are holy shit, this is so boring. Whereas I can watch that and I can see the intricacy. You watch a Liverpool City match or something like that, it's captivating because those dudes are it's the tippy top of physical conditioning in sports.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're endurance, obviously, not necessarily physical strength. I mean, these NFL dudes are terrifying human beings.
Yeah, those soccer players though are incredible. I mean, most professional athletes are in great shape, but the endurance of soccer players is crazy.
Yeah. Questions, folks. Questions. Mark Curry, I don't want to talk about Haaland. He's too good. He's too good. I need that guy to just retire because he wants to just be good at something else. Did we get any lineups yet? We still didn't get any lineups. We desperately need that Minnesota one. I don't care at all about the Rangers lineup or the Giants lineup. I'm not getting to either one of those teams right now regardless, but I mean, the Twins are incredibly important, and the longer they wait, the more they're going to do dumb shit.
I would say the longer they wait, the less they'll be owned, but that's just not the case in DFS 2023.
Ryan wants to know single entry stack on FanDuel and DraftKings. I can give you the DraftKings answer. I have no concept of FanDuel today. I think my answer is the Braves.
I see no reason why it wouldn't or couldn't or shouldn't be. I mean, they look really good here, and the ownership's not necessarily there because you have the Twins pulling it.
I think they're just the easiest team to get to today because of the way the pitching looks. If you want to go, honestly, Carlos Rodon, Chase Silseth, 7,100, 6,900. What's stopping you from getting to Atlanta? The best parts of Atlanta at that point? Nothing.
Absolutely
and
nothing.
I think that you can go to much better pitching options than that too.
Yeah, agreed. And you can go to better pitching options today, but better pitching options is relative. Like there just aren't really quote unquote good options today in my mind. Maybe you view them a little bit better than I do, but even still, there's no guys here that you're like, I mean, that one slate we did, I think that was this past Monday or whatever, where there was that 3 late games and you had Verlander and Webb, Snell. Like
I was loaded.
We don't have anything like that today. Like even
Not
no
even
top end guy. No, not even close. No. So just different types of slates.
Very, very different slates. NBA talk for 5 minutes. I wish. Does Josh remember pre-Osmo when he was streaming on YouTube and the stripper bots would flood the chat from time to time? I remember streaming pre-Osmo when an actual stripper was like soliciting people in my chat. Not a bot, a human being. Well, what we thought was a human being at that point in time. Yeah, I remember that vividly.
That's hilarious. Where'd she come from? Craigslist or something?
No idea. I would have to go back. The stream still exists on my channel somewhere. I would have to like really dig into it.
It's so funny.
What was her name? Somebody would probably know that. Malakar says he was there. I would, if you could remember her name, definitely drop that in chat. But because I don't have a clue. I wish I could remember it. I would also really love to just talk NBA for the next month, I guess. That would be good. All right, so I'm basically playing 5 stacks today. I now have more Yankees than I thought I was going to have. Red Sox, Twins, Rockies, Braves, Yankees is basically everything that I have today. A couple big stands on the Red Sox and Rockies, but like neutral-ish on Twins and Yankees. And then Braves is a lot of Acuna, but still enough of everybody else.
Even the Yankees, like they're getting ownership, but it's not like NBA ownership. Like
no,
there's still tons of meat on the bone. Like if they go off here, like you're not like, oh my God, like I need everything else. Like you do need everything else to go off to win, but you need that anyways in the tournament. So I'm with it. I don't like hate the Yankees. It's just the ownership's already there for smaller fields.
And Morningwood Blues says, talk about being in shape. How about the cyclists in the Tour de France? I mean, it probably helps to be on EPO.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Whether or not soccer players are on the gas, I assume everybody's taking whatever they can get. But, I mean.
The comparison I would make.
Basically not real.
What do you like NBA players versus professional soccer players?
I mean, it's a completely different level of cardio, I think.
I think like in terms of like if someone's trying to ask the generic who's in better shape question, I think it's like a toss up, at least in my mind there.
I think it's the answer is always soccer.
Okay.
I think they're at the top end, the amount of miles that some of those guys run in a given 90 minutes is pretty staggering.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's tough to know. I mean, we'll never have an answer to this. And it's so person dependent. Like Deion Sanders was, has obviously been everywhere, was asked what's the hardest thing to do in sports. And obviously he said hit a baseball because that was like the one thing he struggled to do. You know what I mean? Like, of course he's going to say that. Now, I think that obviously hitting a baseball is really hard, but if he was a great baseball player and barely made it in the NFL, I'm sure his answer would be a little bit different.
Sure. All right, final exposures, guys. I'll hit you with this, and then we're going to go ahead and duck on out of here. Most exposed pitcher. I don't really have one. I have 4. Carlos Rodon, Nathan Eovaldi, Brian Wu, and Lance Lynn are all essentially 24% owned. I do have 17% of Waldachuk, Silseth, and oddly enough, we definitely didn't say this man's name. I have 12% of Colin Ray. Don't follow me for that one. I am half the field of Nick Pivetta and half the field of John Means. My stands for today, the Red Sox, the Braves, the Twins, the Rockies, and the Yankees. I do not in any way look forward to swapping out this Minnesota Twins nonsense sometime in the next hour. That's going to be annoying because I'm going out for pizza and wings. So now I got to bring my laptop. That sucks.
Yeah, that's annoying, but I'm sure it'll be out.
Ooh,
it's an
Twins lineup. Twins lineup out. Twins lineup out. Solano, Polanco, Luplow, Jeffers, Farmer, Castro, Kepler, Vasquez, and Taylor.
That's
hitting pretty well what I was expecting.
Yeah, agreed. I'm with it. So
Luplow hitting better. Jeffers, Farmer, Castro, Taylor, Vast. Okay, so it's Kepler for Matt Wallner, I believe.
Kepler's in.
Kepler in.
Okay.
Assuming Matt Wallner is an outfielder?
Yeah, he is.
I have no idea what people's positions are if I don't look at it. I wish that was an easier swap, but it's not a hard swap. But on that note, we're going to get on out of here, guys. Good luck tonight on all of your MLB contests. Matt, good luck maxing the relay throw tonight.
It's one of
We had
those
some
where
fun,
just
guys.
I hope that they cash. I hope my lineup's cash. Don't even care about the winning it. Just hope they cash.
We had a lot of fun, folks. This is the final regular season MLB Live Before Lock on a weekday of the year. Enjoy everything. We'll be back for something next week. We definitely have shows tomorrow and Sunday. Hit that like button if you haven't done it already. We are going to get out of here. Peace.